And ADHD can sort of be presented as sort of like fun, kind of quirky, like spontaneous. And like, yes, absolutely. Like people can be like that. They're not all like that because, we've all got our own personalities. And there is this sort of like darker side sort of ADHD that I think is often sort of ignored and sort of dismissed. It's not just, haha, I'm so random, or oh my God, like the usual thing of like, oh, squirrel. And it's like, okay, yeah, again, sometimes I can be like that. But actually, there's a lot more going on under the surface, that sort of ADHD iceberg thing. I really love the idea of your podcast is because by listening to other people's experiences, like it can feel really like validating and you don't feel so alone. It can be quite hard to find peer support as well, particularly when you're sort of newly diagnosed or even undiagnosed. And honestly, like since my diagnosis, since speaking about it on platforms like LinkedIn and stuff like that, suddenly that's it. Like I'm just connecting with everyone who's ADHD and it's like, oh my God, yeah, me too. And you don't feel so alone.
You potentially like thinking of a career change at all?
I mean, yeah, I honestly like this is what I had a bit of a wobbly about last time. Like, whilst I was eating my sausages at dinner, just burst into tears. I was like,
Oh,
I don't know what I'm doing with my life. Because, yeah, like I do have a background as a pharmacist, and it's really nice seeing other people, a bit like what Dr. Ellie was saying about like, but you've got so many like sort of transferable skills and stuff. And I think it's having that realization and that confidence to be like, okay, maybe this isn't necessarily the sector for me anymore. Like, what else can I sort of do with it? But I'm just feeling so lost. And, it's kind of what I was saying to you sort of before this was like, I actually haven't done anything. Like, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. Like, all these sort of people that have come on your show are just like really accomplished. And whilst, it's awesome seeing how like, people with ADHD can really thrive and stuff. I haven't found that. And it's sort of comparison thing makes you feel pretty rubbish about yourself. But yeah, I don't know, maybe a career change or just building on my sort of pharmacy thing. Like at the moment, I'm sort of looking to sort of get into the prescriber thing of ADHD, but I think I would like to do more than just clinical because I think I can. I've always got so many ideas and I need to do something with this.
Yeah, get it out there and
Get it
yeah,
out.
actually doing it.
My
Yeah.
brain's just like on fire. So yeah, maybe I don't know, but I really don't know what the future holds, and it's kind of scary, and I don't know what I'm doing.
I don't think anyone actually. It's one thing I think I've realised over the last sort of 2-3 years when I've, I've changed industries a couple of times and
Mm,
met people from other industries, business owners, and that nobody really has it figured out
no,
at any age. That it's just a constant journey, I think.
it is, and I feel like I kind of kept trying to like reinvent myself as well. I think like people say that a lot. At one point, I started making like lavender eye pillows from like recycled material, and I was like, "Yep, I'm gonna do that." And then I was like looking into doing like UX design. I was like, "Yep, I'm gonna do that." I was like, "No," it's just constant. And then it's like, well, actually, I'm still very much in the same job because my mum said a really good like sort of proverb thing the other day, where she was like, "If you want to get to water, if you keep digging loads of little wells, you're not going to get to water. You need to just dig into one well, and then you will find water." And I'm like, "Ah, yes, focus my energy on one thing."
Yeah, and it's so hard to do, isn't it, with ADHD? Finding what you want to do that's kind of like fulfilling,
Mm,
that feels like purposeful as well can be really difficult. You mentioned Dr. Ellie earlier, and when we had the conversation, she's come out of the healthcare industry now,
mm,
and at the time she'd started a what she called a portfolio career, which was doing about 4 or 5 different things that
mm.
helped to break it up with with how her brain worked and I had that variety which I think often an ADHD brain sort of
That's
craves a little bit, doesn't it? Because
And I think that's
yeah,
probably the same for me, but it's a bit like, I can't do anything, I'm just stuck as
trying
pharmacist.
to find what to do though, isn't it? But one thing obviously you have started doing and leads into spreading awareness is your Instagram page as well.
Oh, yeah. Let's see how that goes. No, I think this is Instagram account number 5, number 6.
Oh, number 6, okay.
Like the classic thing, I was like, "Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm gonna do travel photography." So hopefully this one will stick, and I think what I really importantly told myself is like, actually, I'm only gonna make content when my energy is elevated. This there's so many have tos and should dos in life that I don't want this to be yet another thing, actually. Like, this really has to go with my energy flow. And again, that is another tip. Only do stuff when you've got energy, because if you can, obviously, sometimes you just sort of have to. But especially when it's things that you're like, oh, I'd quite like to do that. I've decided if I'm not feeling it for like a few weeks, then fine. That's how it is. But yeah, I kind of, and again, I was like, well, what am I adding to the conversation? Like, I'm not an expert, but I guess with my pharmacy background, like, I'm trying to figure it out for myself, but kind of like, let's learn sort of together in like small, manageable bites. Because what I was saying about this thing of like, oh, like, look at this resource, look at that resource. And you're like, I had like,
Overwhelmed.
God knows how many tabs up on my computer. I ordered myself 5 different books, downloaded all the apps, and I was like, yeah. Oh God, I just can't do this. Like, this is too much. Leave it, forget it. And then you don't actually
Kind of
learn
follow it
anything
through,
from the
and
resources.
yeah,
Yeah, because you're just so overwhelmed. So I guess that's kind of the point of this Instagram, is to just do little snippets of education just here and there, and also signpost into resources. But again, not being like, go look at these 500 websites and go order this book, blah, blah, blah. It's like, just choose one. So that's kind of what I'm hoping to do with it. Hopefully I stick to it because,
nice. Well, like, so this episode will come out in a couple of months, so hopefully by then it's still going.
yeah, watch. It would be like last place in November.
But for anyone that, if you're still posting, anyone that wants to go check it out, it's called ADHD Pharmacy and Me,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. It's because obviously, like, a lot of healthcare professionals these days are kind of making, sort of Instagrams and stuff like that. And I do think it's really helpful because, as I said, there is so much out there, but you have to be careful about like who's the person sort of saying it, like, or like, references or something like that, because social media is great, but also in terms of sort of medical misinformation and stuff,
Can be a bit of a
sometimes
minefield to kind of navigate sometimes, can't it?
it can be. And obviously, like, if you don't sort of come from a sort of maybe clinical background or something like that, it can be quite hard to sort of decipher, well, actually, where's this
Is it
person.
true or is it bullshit?
Exactly, yeah. So I guess as part of it as well, I have seen a lot of Instagram accounts that I'm like, that is really useful. And again, I'm not saying like, oh, you have to be a doctor to be able to, spread awareness, and that's correct. Like, that's absolutely not what I'm saying. So I'm kind of just slowly collecting like other sort of Instagram accounts that I think, yeah, no, that is factually correct, and it's really helpful and stuff like that, to kind of be like, I am not an expert, but these people are saying some very good things, and I've checked out their sources and stuff like that. So please follow them as well. Yeah, that's kind of my other thing. Maybe it's because my mum is a librarian and she likes collecting resources and signposting, that I've become a pharmacist who essentially does the same.
A pharmaceutical librarian. Nice. I like that. That's a big career change, isn't it? And probably something that somebody's not done before is a pharmaceutical librarian. There you go. We've found you.
Find me a new career. Yesterday I was going to be a breathwork teacher. Today I'm going to be a librarian. That's cool.
Um, so yeah, and obviously I think with your Instagram as well, because like you say, you've got that knowledge and understanding of the healthcare industry, that you
Mm,
can notice when there is misinformation and when there's not. I think that's a really crucial thing, because a lot of people that are spreading this misinformation don't come
mm.
from a healthcare background as well. So yeah, I think that's really important, and obviously your own lived experiences with ADHD as well. I mean, knowing from your own experiences how certain things might affect you and your brain and what works best.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess, yeah, again, like, just because I'm a lived expert doesn't mean that I'm an expert. But yeah, of course, you can sort of add your sort of spin on it or something, and experiences. And I think that's the whole reason why I was like, yeah, I really love the idea of your podcast, is because by listening to other people's experiences, like, it can feel really like validating, and you don't feel so alone. So I guess, again, that's kind of the other reason why I've sort of made it as well, is that it can be quite hard to find sort of peer support as well, particularly when you're sort of newly diagnosed, or even undiagnosed. And honestly, like, since my diagnosis, since speaking about it, on platforms like LinkedIn and stuff like that, suddenly that's it. Like, I'm just connecting with everyone who's ADHD, and it's like, oh my God, yeah, me too. And you don't feel so alone. And I think that's really powerful. That's another sort of powerful thing as well, is like, try to find sort of peer support, even if you're just like, oh yeah, so ADHD, right? And like, you have a laugh about it, like, you can feel less alone, because I guess after my diagnosis, like, I did feel quite isolated. And it's always that feeling, isn't it, of like, oh, I don't belong, I feel different. And so that's why it's so important to connect with others who, we always have different experiences because we all are completely unique, but there will be a lot of sort of common threads that kind of bind us together. So I think that's really important. And so I guess, yeah, that's sort of another reason why I've made that platform as well, is just to be like, you're not on your own, don't worry.
Yeah, and that was, like, one of the most kind of fundamental well, reason I started this
Mm,
podcast. And I've said to you before is that power of the shared experiences as well, and not feeling alone, because it can feel, even before you've been diagnosed and not
mm,
first realization, you can sort of feel like you are on your own and there's not really anyone to talk
absolutely.
to. So yeah, definitely sharing, like, more information, and I think just promoting awareness as well, and that, this is a real condition. It's, there's still plenty of skepticism about ADHD. I think probably even in the healthcare field, right? I mean, have you
Yes.
experienced that in your field of work?
Yeah, I mean, there is. I think, there is just such a I think there is still just a misunderstanding, and there is still skepticism of, oh, but you're only saying you're ADHD because you can't be bothered to do this, or that, like, you want free money from the government, or whatever it is. I think there is still a lot of stigma, and it just gets quite exhausting after a while being like, it is a real condition, and I think that's why, if you can learn what it is and, confidently say it is a neurodevelopmental condition, there's actually, like, changes in the brain, all this kind of stuff, then that can kind of help you to sort of, again, sort of advocate for yourself. But after a while, advocating for yourself does get quite exhausting. But no, that I think there is still misunderstanding and sort of stigma attached with ADHD. And again, sort of coming back to social media, you know, it is helpful. But again, like, if you just see a snippet of it, that really doesn't show the full picture of it. And I think when everyone's like, that saying of like, everyone's ADHD these days,
Mm.
it can feel really dismissive, because actually, to be diagnosed with ADHD, the whole point of it is that it impacts you in multiple areas of your life. It's not just, oh, I've forgotten my keys a couple of times, whatever. Like, it really is like a all-encompassing sort of condition. And I think that's what people maybe sometimes don't realize, is that often ADHD can sort of be presented as sort of like fun, kind of quirky, like spontaneous. And like, yes, absolutely. Like, people can be
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
They're not all like that, because, we've all got our own personalities and whatever. But there is this sort of like darker side sort of ADHD that I think is often sort of ignored and sort of dismissed. And I guess that's why I'm sort of really pushing this sort of education and awareness kind of stuff, to be like, no, it's not just, haha, I'm so random. Or, oh my God, like the usual thing of like, oh, squirrel. And it's like, okay, yeah, again, sometimes I can be like that. But actually, there's a lot more going on under the surface, that sort of ADHD iceberg thing. So, yeah.
A lot of stuff does stay hidden, and see, I think it's different to a lot of other conditions in the sense that, this is a lifelong long thing. So even though you've been diagnosed, it hasn't just started, like, it's not a recent thing. Like, when you go to the doctors and you've got flu, and
Yeah.
well, they tell you stay away now, but
Yeah. They're like, get away from me. I
well,
don't want to get sick.
yeah, don't come in, just take some tablets. But no, but conditions like that where it kind of comes and it goes. You treat it with a bit of medication, it's fine. Like, ADHD just isn't that. So I think the more that people can understand that this is not something that's just come up recently, but this has affected me my whole life, and I've
Yeah.
been going through school, and being a teenager, and learning how to be an adult, still learning how to be an adult.
Yeah.
Um,
Forever, forever learning how to be an adult.
but yeah, it's like going through all those phases, and every single phase, it's always been there, and it can make it harder to fit in, which is what is still a very neurotypical world. Trying to fit into different environments like that through stages of your life can be challenging at times.
100%. It really can. And I think actually, yeah, I remember speaking to someone, and they were like, so when did you develop ADHD? I was like, in the womb?
In the womb, I like that. I'll take that one next time.
Yeah. And then another person was like, how did you catch ADHD? And I was like, so my parents were giving me some clothes and they gave me their jeans. You gotta
Nice, I
just
like it.
Because that's the thing people don't understand. They're like, it's always this thing of like, but you've been managing fine. Why have you suddenly decided that you're ADHD? And I'm like, mate, my brain was born like this. So
Yeah.
yeah, it does get pretty tiring explaining it sometimes.
I
Definitely.
suppose obviously, like you're saying earlier about you not knowing actually what it was for a long while. There's obviously statistics out there about women and certainly young girls masking a lot better
Mm,
than boys do.
mm,
Probably, well, again, it's the whole point of thing with masking is fitting in and how you kind of perceive that you should be at that
yeah.
in that environment. Is that something that when you look back following your diagnosis, is that something that's been quite heavily present as well?
Massively so. You kind of sometimes feel almost like a chameleon of like you kind of just mold to whoever you're sort of with at that point, and then you're like, oh God, who actually am I and stuff like that. And I think, in some respects, all kids, whether you're neurodivergent or neurotypical, you do have this thing of, oh my God, I must fit in. Because honestly, the playground is harsh. It's
Yeah.
like it's brutal out there. Kids are mean. So, but no, I definitely did feel like that. And I think also, coming from a background where my mum's French as well, and like, everyone sort of who grew up around me was all like, had names like Alice and Sophie. And I was like, my name's Emmanuelle and I speak French. And they're like, oh my God, you're weird. So, again, it's not just this thing of ADHD, this sort of like this sort of intersectionality kind of thing of like other differences that can make you feel sort of different and like you don't belong, which is really difficult as well. But yeah, no, I definitely did feel like I was masking. I mean, I'm very lucky in the sense that I am still friends with my school friends, like sort of from the later years, and like housemates and uni friends. So I am very lucky, even though like I am so bad at staying in contact. I'm rubbish, and it's kind of
Yeah.
this thing of like it's not out of sight, out of mind, but it's like I'll think about them, but if I literally don't text them right there and then, like forget it. That's
It's
it.
gone, yeah, yeah.
And that's the thing, like people with ADHD can struggle to maintain friendships because of this thing of like, well, if I'm not seeing you like all the time and you're not there in front of me, like I will forget to message you and stuff.
Mm.
But yeah, going back to the masking thing, definitely felt like I had to mask. And again, this thing of, working as a pharmacist, it's like it has to be perfect kind of thing. And I think that's kind of maybe why I sort of crumbled a little bit because I'm like, this thing of like you've got to be professional, and I think I am professional. Professionalism for me looks like being really empathetic, non-judgmental, like listening to your patients, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's very much like you cannot make a mistake. So already as someone who's a people pleaser, and like the way I've kind of dealt with stuff is by like achieving,
Mm.
then yeah, you kind of can't be like, oh, actually, yeah, I am struggling. I don't really understand this. It is really difficult. But yeah, again, the masking thing, I'm gonna go back and reflect on that because I think I have masked, and it's finding those people that you feel comfortable with. And again, a lot of my close friends are neurodivergent, which we didn't know until like later in life. And you kind of like have this sort of like magnet with people, this kind of like, well, we all kind of feel a bit like misfits, but we don't really know why. And then you kind of just sort of clump together, and it's quite nice, really.
And that's nice, like, to have those people around you as well, isn't it? That can you can, I guess, be yourself with and, rather than that comedian, like, because it's
Mm,
odd kind of I don't know. I always felt like going back to sort of school and I think even through college and university, that chameleon piece was always there in terms of like, I was trying to find my people out. I was
yeah.
friends with like everyone, but and I would just, well, I was going to say be a bit of a floater, but that sounds wrong. But
You're a fighter, John.
thanks. Um, yeah, so but floating about like different groups of people and not actually like staying to one.
Mm,
But didn't mean I was any sort of less of friends with people, but it was just trying to fit in with people, I guess.
yeah,
Um,
and I think again that can feel really common is that you're like, "Oh, I've got loads of friends, but I still feel really alone because I feel like no one really gets me and feel like I can't really truly be who I am." And I think since sort of telling my sort of old friends and stuff, like they have been really keen to sort of like understand what ADHD is, how it actually shows up in me and stuff, and actually given me that space to be like, for example, I don't know, I can really struggle with, as I said, like fatigue and also even social anxiety. Like these are like my oldest friends, like I still struggle with that. And now I just tell them, like, "Guys, kind of having a bit of anxiety about this. Don't really know why. If I'm a bit quiet and weird, like, this is what's happening." And they're like, "No, that's cool. Like, we don't care. Like, we love you for who you are. Like, just bring who you are." And I think that is so powerful to be able to very, like gently start unmasking about around people that you trust. And I think that's really good because I don't know, like I almost created myself this persona of like, my parents even said they're like, "You came back from Zanzi." Obviously, I went to Zanzi on the girls' trip and to school. And I kind of created this sort of persona for myself of like this loud, like brash, sort of like party girl, like in your face. I mean, maybe it was sort of some of the sort of hyperactivity sort of rearing up, but then behind closed doors, I was quiet. I was just really like, oof. And I think that's the thing, particularly when you don't know people very well, you kind of want to be that sort of fun, like bubbly personality, but inside you're not feeling like that. And like even my friend was like, sometimes it almost feels performative, like this sort of like kind of just trying to be like fun because that's
Yeah.
what people liked about me is that I was fun and spontaneous. And like, yes, I am like that, truly, like part of me. But also there is this other part of me that is quite quiet and like an introvert. And yeah, eh, I can be an extroverted introvert.
No, and I like that, and it's something that I hear a lot as well, and I know it's something that I didn't realise, like how big a thing it was. But there was always like a work me and a not work me when I was out with mates, and would be extroverted and things like that, and be especially when you go out like drinking, and be
Mhm.
the fun, well, or be the fun one, or or the one that will do the shots as soon as you ask them to. But there was all these different versions, and like none of them were exactly truly me.
No. And I think that is definitely something that I'm absolutely still figuring out is, yeah, as you said, you just constantly have these different masks depending on who you're with. And I think I am still in that stage. Like I haven't, I'm not far along enough in my journey to be like, yep, I'm fully unmasked wherever I am. And I think that's going to take a lot of time. But really, what you need is safety for where you
Mm.
are. Like, yeah, I guess that's why I've always felt often quite isolated in my profession, really. It kind of sucks, but yeah, I've always felt very different to my colleagues.
Yeah, but I think the biggest thing that we've touched on today is that you're not alone in that as well.
100%.
So knowing that you have got people around you, even if you can't text back straight away, because you do forget, and it
Yeah.
happens to us all, especially with ADHD. I think even more so prone to kind of maybe putting the group chats on mute sometimes just to get away, and then
The group chats, I mean, just honestly, sometimes I just want to throw my phone in the bin. I love you
yeah.
all, everyone who's messaged me, I love you all, but I literally just cannot just go. It's just too much. But I think when it's feeling like that, that is your body telling you, I'm overwhelmed at the moment, and that's when you need to do something about it, You're feeling overwhelmed. I really suck at replying back to messages. Like, I'll be doing something, I'll see it, and I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll reply to that. And then a month goes
And
by, and
then
it's
it
like,
goes, swipe it off, or one of the funniest things, and I don't think I mentioned it on the show before, but we've got a WhatsApp group with the guests in, and
mm,
it's you can see that happen with different people when they're sort of having that moment of, "I'm not replying to anyone," and going
yeah.
through that phase too. I need to reply, and then you'll get people catching up with the feed and then, like, reacting or replying and everything like that. I think it's, like, the perfect group really uh,
It is.
for that, so
But again, it's so nice because obviously everyone in that is ADHD, that there's not this thing of, um, or hopefully not like this thing of like rejection sensitivity dysphoria of like, oh, no one's replying to me, everybody hates me. Or like, oh God, I've got to reply, but like I literally don't have the energy. And it's kind of like, you just are how you are. Like, we all show up differently on different days, and that's fine. And like,
yeah.
what a nice place to be in. And that's why I quite like being in sort of ADHD spaces now, because I'm like, I don't have to mask. I can just be however I am that day.
Yeah. It sounds like you've been on a journey so far, and are
Mhm.
still on that journey to self-discovery, I guess, a little bit with in terms of what you want to do with career and job and everything else, and whether you want to sell lavender masks and the
Because
rest of
that's
it.
the thing, isn't it? Like, whether you sort of self-diagnose or whether diagnose or whatever, but whatever it is, having that realization of, oh God, I'm ADHD, it kind of, I mean, I don't know how you felt when they told you your diagnosis, but for me, I burst into tears because A, I wasn't expecting it because I thought I'm just going to be dismissed again. I'm like, oh, you're not quite meeting it, so go back to your GP. But also this sort of shattering of, we all have this idea of self in our heads, right? And it was just shattered. And I was like, wow. And there is this sort of comparison of like when you first get diagnosed and the sort of cycle of grief. And I think I am still very much, riding through that. But yeah, I think it's going to be probably a lifelong sort of discovery. I still feel like I'm quite fresh in my journey, to be honest.
Yeah, well, I look forward to seeing where the journey goes.
Mm.
If you had to like just think for a moment, and obviously, with how your career is going, you're starting the Instagram page now as well. If Emmanuelle can be consistent and achieves everything she wants to achieve, where would she be in the next 12 months if we were to have that conversation
Oh
again?
gosh. I mean, ideally, I would be going round, uh, whether it's healthcare or outside of healthcare, doing these sort of awareness presentations. I think really, um, yeah, maybe I don't know, doing events and stuff. Maybe I could become a breathwork coach, lots of ideas. But yeah, I think for me, it's really this thing of raising awareness and also saying to other sort of professionals that it's like you can be and still be professional, but you can also show up unmasked. But it's about having this sort of general awareness and acceptance in the workplace first. Yeah, that's kind of what I'd like to do.
Amazing.
And I
I
might
look
write a
forward.
book. I've started writing a book.
Nice, yeah. Go along with it. Yeah, that's no, but I really do honestly look forward to seeing where everything goes, and I like your what you're posting out there as well. It's really informative, and
Thank you.
it just helps people feel like they're not alone, and put them on
Yeah,
the right track as well. Because there's so much information out there, it can be difficult to navigate and know which thing's the right
mm,
thing to go with, and every body's experience of ADHD is unique and is different, but
absolutely.
there's a lot of crossovers as well. So, and it's one thing that I really love about your Instagram page is that it covers all those bases. So,
Thank
and
you.
I'm sure that it will help many people on their journey as well as you on yours.
Yeah, because I think that's the thing is that that's why I was like, well, am I actually in a position to do it right now? Because there was a lot of other people out there who've like, I've experienced this, but it's like, I am experiencing this actually. This is very much in the here and now for me. So let's kind of go on it together because sometimes look at other people and I compare myself and I'm like I'm rubbish, like why do I still not know how to manage it and stuff, and it's like that's okay, let's just go through this together kind of thing. And I guess another thing as well what I'd like to do in 12 months is I've been working obviously with Himmel on ADHD pathfinding as well, so I really hope that sort of takes off because that's kind of the whole point of what we're trying to do is being like mapping the whole like I think I'm ADHD, what to do, blah, and just really have that kind of have your hand held. Because honestly, like even getting to an assessment can feel like an absolute battle. And then after the assessment, it does very much feel like, boom, you're left on your own. So yeah, kind of having that digital hand holding to sort of guide you through whatever stage you are at on your journey.
And I love that as well because I speak to so many people that get diagnosed. I was going through that diagnosis sort of process when I started this. So by the time I actually got my diagnosis, I was aware of what it was going to be like, but
Mm,
a lot of people obviously don't have that and have
mm,
this perception that when you do get diagnosed, they'll say, okay, this is how we're going to help you. You're going to do A, B, C, D, and this is all the stuff that is going to you can do now to help you. Whereas it's like, yeah, you've been diagnosed with ADHD, and what? What do you want?
yeah, 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 literally, literally. And I think that is the thing that really infuriates me the most is that you get given this huge, label. And then that's it. Like, if, for example, if you're diagnosing someone with diabetes, you won't be like, you're diabetic, the end, and then walk away. No,
Mhm.
you'd be like, this is what diabetes is, this is how you manage it. And ADHD is the same thing. And it should be the same thing. And that's why I get really annoyed about it. And I know that there is some sort of post-diagnostic stuff out there in terms of, again, like medication, but medication might not be right for everybody. And often it does feel like that's the only sort of option. And I think really, again, this is why I'm hammering it home is that I think the key to understanding ADHD in yourself starts with education about what is ADHD. How does ADHD show up in myself? And then, and then there's other stuff, like there's coaching, which can be really beneficial, particularly like group coaching as well, and like therapy. And, there is a lot of stuff out there, but you really need someone to kind of
To
hold your
make you
hands up
aware, yeah.
because it's just exhausting. It's just overwhelming. And I guess I had the stupid thought of, oh, well, now that I've got a diagnosis, I'll magically know who I am. I'll magically know how to manage myself. And you don't. You absolutely don't. Um, and yeah, I guess I'd quite like to create a program, to be honest with you, that does this sort of holistic, sort of multidisciplinary team approach of, okay, someone's been diagnosed, or even whilst they're waiting again, as I said, there's a lot of things that you can sort of do to kind of just hold your hand sort of through that. There's actually this NHS Clinical Innovators program which maybe I'll apply for, I don't know. But yeah, I'd really like to create a program for that, but more importantly, actually make it affordable because again, something that I'm very passionate about is actual like equality in healthcare. And I guess my concern is that with the NHS closing its door on assessments, it's only going to be people who can afford it are going to be able to pay for assessments. And I just don't think that's right. Yeah, and I do see that quite a lot again in the ADHD sphere of coaching. It's really nice to see some coaches actually like, do you know what, if you can't afford it, just kind of pay what you can. Because again, people with ADHD can really struggle with money.
Mm.
Um, yeah, so I would love to be able to create that sort of online platform, but I just haven't figured it out. Yeah, because
But
we
it's
do
all part
need
of the
to.
journey, figuring it out, isn't
It's
it?
all
So
part of the.
I am really looking forward to when you get there and you start. Like I say, I don't think anyone ever has it figured out, but
No,
there's definitely steps along the way where you're like, actually, I'm on the right track. So I look forward to seeing what you do when you're on that track.
thank you. Yeah, thank
Thank
you.
you so much for your time, Emmanuel.
Yeah, thank you, John.
If anyone is wanting to connect with you after this episode, where can they find you?
Yeah, so LinkedIn, Manuel Tong. Also, my Instagram, ADHD Pharmacy Me. But yeah, please do chat to me. Yeah, you're really not alone in this. Again, just a final thing: healthcare professionals are people too. We really struggle too. Not this invincible hero. Don't beat yourself up. So yeah, that's kind of my last words.
A great note to end on. So yeah, really appreciate that, Emmanuel. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sean.